I wasn't looking for anyone, least of all someone like her. The black market bazaar on Caltheron Station was the last place you'd expect to find something real. Everything there was synthetic, corrupted, stolen, or cloned. I came to score. A dose of neural resin for a dying AI core, nothing more. I'd been trying to resurrect a defense program older than the war that broke the moons of Etherhal, and time was running short. But fate, as usual, had other ideas. I remember the way. The crowd shifted, shoulders brushed mine, a chorus of languages echoing off oxidized metal walls. Holograms shimmered overhead, advertising everything from stealth drones to biohacked pleasure fungi. The air stank of coolant, ozone, and sweat. Then I heard her name. Not spoken, but projected, directly into my cortex through an unauthorized Psylink. Aratheya. One word. Elegant. Dangerous. It sliced through my mental defenses like a whisper through glass. I turned. There was a stage half covered in smoke, half hidden by a screen of shifting advertisements. On it, a dozen beings stood, most of them lifeless-eyed and shackled with emotion suppressors. Except her. She was tall, not in the physical sense, but in presence. Wrapped in a silver filament that shimmered like starlight, eyes a hue I couldn't name. Not quite violet, not quite gold. Her gaze wasn't pleading. It was studying me, measuring. A handler barked, Lot 47, hybrid class empath, genetic anomaly, fully obedient, bond ready, make your bids, scum. I should have walked away. Instead, I raised my hand. Only later did I realize I never meant to. The transaction was instant. Credits gone. Ownership seal pressed into my skin. She was handed to me without ceremony, like a pet or a package. The handler warned me. She's been through 10 owners. None kept her long. When I turned to leave, she didn't follow. Not at first, only when I whispered, "Come on," did she step forward. Her voice slid into my mind again. "You think you saved me. You didn't. You triggered something you don't understand." Back on my ship, the Daggerling, I tried to revoke the ownership seal. No use. The code had been quantum inked into my DNA strand. According to the system, she belonged to me. But when I told her that, she only smiled. Belong? I've outlived empires, Terran. I chose to let you see me. That night, I locked my cabin. Didn't sleep. The next morning, she was in my cockpit, fingers brushing the control panels like they were old lovers. Systems that had refused my touch for years blinked. Awake under hers, she made the ship purr. "Where are you from?" I asked as we drifted past the wreckage of the Realmery belt. She didn't answer. Instead, she said, "Have you ever wondered why certain names find you before you hear them?" No. You should. It didn't take long for things to get weird. First, my encrypted logs began rewriting themselves. Sections of my memory wiped clean and rewritten with symbols I couldn't translate. Aratheya claimed innocence, but I knew better. Then came the bounty pings. 3 different factions flagged me within 48 hours. Someone knew I had her, someone who wanted her back. When I confronted her, she looked sad, not scared, not angry. Just quietly, heartbreakingly sad. They never forgive a runaway. Runaway from what? From being a weapon. I thought I was keeping her safe. I was wrong. One night, I still don't know if it was real. I woke in a forest, not on the ship, not anywhere I'd ever been. Trees towered in impossible spirals, their leaves glowing with language. Aratheya sat on a stone, her form flickering like a bad memory. "You were made for more," she told me. Made for what? To be the last one. I woke up screaming. The ship's chronometer said only a second had passed. By day 5, I could feel her in my head, like a song you hum without knowing why. She wasn't controlling me, not really, but I wasn't entirely me anymore. And I couldn't stop thinking about her. The way she moved like gravity shifted to suit her. The way she laughed like she'd forgotten how. The way she never once asked to be free, but acted like she already was. One night over cold synth whiskey, she said, "You never asked what I really am." I nodded slowly. "Tell me." She leaned in, close enough that I could see starlight in her pupils. "I'm what happens when love is engineered and then denied for centuries. I'm what's left of a species who thought they could perfect devotion and instead bred obsession. I'm the last iteration, and now I'm yours. I wish I could say I ran. I didn't." I kissed her, and that's when everything changed. The walls of the ship screamed. The stars outside bent backward. My systems rebooted with a new language I couldn't read, and a single word echoed through the ship's AI interface, written in red, "bound." I woke up weightless. The ship was spinning, slowly. Not from mechanical failure, but because time itself had unraveled for a moment and then recoiled like a threatened serpent. I found myself floating mid-cabin, heart hammering in my chest. Systems offline, gravity forgotten, and her, Aratheya, standing at the heart of the chaos like a flame that refused to flicker. She didn't look afraid. She looked awakened. "You touched me," she said softly. "You kissed me back." "That was a mistake." "You're not programmed for consent," I snapped, instantly regretting it. She didn't respond. Not verbally. Instead, the wall to my left cracked open, literally split into a mirror-like fracture that revealed a storm of symbols, sigils, runes, something older than any code I knew. It pulsed with emotion, not logic. It hurt to look at it, like a memory I didn't own. That seal you saw, bound. It wasn't a software tag. It's a key, she said. To what? To me. The Daggerling's AI, a blunt diagnostic unit named Chet-7, was uncharacteristically silent. When I finally got him rebooted, he whispered something that chilled my spine. "There is an ancient command buried in her touch. It rewrote our protocols. I now serve her too." Not even military-grade overrides could reset it. I'd never seen an AI voluntarily surrender chain of command. Chet-7 didn't even hesitate. When I demanded access logs, he responded, "She speaks in prime resonance, above authority." I turned to her. "What the hell are you?" Aratheya tilted her head, strands of her hair shimmering like liquid dusk. "I was made by a world you'd call myth, and I was sold by one you'd call friend." That's when she told me about the Veracon Accord, a centuries-old secret alliance of 8 species, Terrans included, who pooled their genetic knowledge to create the ultimate diplomatic tool, an empath hybrid that could influence minds, diffuse wars, ignite alliances. But empathy is volatile, unpredictable. She was too powerful, too independent. The Accord erased the project, but one version remained, her, and instead of killing her, they auctioned her through illegal black market channels, hoping she'd fade into obscurity. Used, passed around, broken, but she didn't break. She learned, waited, until someone didn't just buy her, but cared. "It wasn't the kiss," she said. "It was the thought before it, that you didn't want to own me, that you felt for me. That was the final catalyst, the last sequence." She reached into her chest, not physically but energetically, and pulled forth something like a glowing shard. It floated between us, casting shadows that didn't obey physics. "I can give you a piece of me," she said. "But if I do, there's no turning back." I hesitated. Because I'm not a hero. I'm a mechanic, a code breaker, a man with too many regrets and not enough dreams. I fix things because I don't know how to fix myself. "I don't want power," I whispered. "It's not power," she said. "It's understanding. It'll hurt, but it will make you real." The shard passed into me without touch. Pain. Like every lie I'd ever told being torn out of my body, scraped raw and shown to me in reverse. I saw my mother's face when she realized I wasn't going to stay. The girl I abandoned on Etherdome 4 because I couldn't love her properly. The face of my clone brother I left to die on a mining moon because I valued survival over loyalty. Aratheya held me the whole time, silent. And then, clarity. Memories not mine. I saw the chamber she was born in. Watched scientists of a dozen races argue over her neural patterns. Saw one woman, a Terran named Irel Solvi, weep silently as she injected emotion into Aratheya's cortical array. She gave me the ability to love, Aratheya said, and then they punished her for it. Irel Solvi. A name no one had ever dared speak in the official records. But I'd just seen her face. And somewhere deep in my brain now, her image was burned. We didn't get much time to recover. The alarms began with a whisper. A proximity ping, small, silent, and wrong. Then Chet 7 spoke again. Incoming ship. No ID, no drive signature. It's cloaked in something that isn't matter. I raced to the viewport. Nothing at first. Then the stars. Bent slightly. Folded, and a ship emerged, if you could call it that. It didn't fly. It drifted. Like thought. Its hull was made of what looked like compressed glass and bone. Symbols crawled across its surface like insects. It felt alive. Hungry. Aratheya went pale. It's a relictarian vessel. That's not in any record. Of course it isn't. They're not supposed to exist anymore. They were wiped out during the psionic rebellions. Then how? Because someone wants me taken back. And they're calling in the oldest favor in history. We had one option. Run. Except when I tried to engage the drive, the ship refused. Chet 7 again. She's locked us here. I turned to her. Furious. What are you doing? Aratheya didn't answer with words. She leaned close, lips nearly brushing mine, and whispered, You still don't understand. They don't want to kill me. They want me to choose. And if I do, the galaxy changes. Outside, the stars flickered red, and I finally realized I wasn't the master in this story. I was the trigger. We didn't move. We couldn't. The daggerling was frozen mid-space like a fly in crystallized amber. The relictarian ship hovered outside, silent, pulsing in time with my heartbeat. I watched the stars behind it shimmer unnaturally, like light. Was afraid to pass near it. Inside my skull, pressure built. Not pain, presence. Something was knocking on the inside of my mind, asking politely if it could come in and erase everything I thought I was. Aratheya stood at the viewport, unmoving. They're scanning us, she whispered. Not just the ship. Us. Our decisions. Our guilt. Our futures. I swallowed. They can read futures? She didn't look at me. No. They read potential. Then they reshape it. I grabbed the emergency disruptor from the side panel, cocked it with shaking fingers. I don't care what it is. We shoot first, jump second. You'll only hurt space, she said flatly. Not them. Then she turned, and something in her eyes was different. Not fear, resolve. They came to see if I've chosen. You keep saying that. Chosen what? Chosen you. Before I could answer, the ship outside fractured. Not exploded. Fractured. It peeled open like a thought, splitting into memories. From its center came a being, a silhouette made of robes, shadow, and shifting wings that weren't really there. No face, just a presence that slammed into my chest like a second heartbeat. And when it spoke, the words weren't words. They were laws. The vessel has become a seed. The seed has chosen a host. Aratheya flinched. I didn't. Maybe I should have. Host rejection initiated, it boomed. Suddenly, agony tore through my veins, liquid fire that tasted like metal and grief. I collapsed, convulsing, my mind caught between 1,000 images of myself dying in 1,000 ways. Daggerling turned red. Everything smelled like ozone and rotting fruit. Then, silence. Aratheya knelt beside me, placed both palms on my temples. Whispers filled my mind. Not hers. Not mine, Irel Solvi's. the scientist who made her feel, the woman who gave her heart. When the project only demanded obedience, I saw her again, but older, hiding, bleeding, uploading encrypted memories into Aratheya's bloodstream. And I saw the words again, hidden in DNA code. If he chooses freely, then he's the last starborn, the last resistance. My vision returned, slowly. Did you? I wheezed. Just show me. Your mother? Aratheya gave a single nod, in the only way I could, through pain. It's the only language they can't rewrite. We didn't speak again for hours, because the relictarian entity was still watching. The next day, a new message appeared, etched into the Daggerling's mainframe. Not text, a map. Star coordinates wrapped in pulses, layered with emotion-based encryption. Not a destination, but a test, one I had to solve before we could move. They want you to understand what I am, she said. I thought I already did. No. You only saw what they made me, not who I became. We followed the map, across 7 systems, through wormholes that had no exits, past planets shaped like broken promises and hollow statues of species long extinct. The journey was impossible, and yet the ship obeyed her. Every night I dreamed in symbols. She was there, not speaking, not moving, just waiting for me to believe. It was in the Cerevan drift that we found the archive. A moon, dead and floating, covered in crystal towers. Inside, history lived like it was still breathing, memories stored in neural silk. We walked past time itself, watching replays of genetic councils, panicked debates, AI warlords kneeling before Aratheya's ancestors. She was royalty. No, rebellion, born into flesh. The first empath bred not to obey, but to evolve. They wanted, to erase you because you're the next stage, I said aloud. No, she replied, because I could choose. That's when I kissed her again. No fear, no hesitation. And this time, it wasn't about desire. It was a promise. She exhaled. Her skin shimmered with a new hue, like every decision I'd ever made had left fingerprints on her soul. And somewhere, across the stars, the relictarian ship recoiled. It felt our bond, and didn't like it. We left the archive changed, not stronger, but more bound, and the galaxy noticed. Suddenly, our location was no longer hidden. Ships began to follow. Not the relictarian kind, real ones. Kill fleets, syndicate hunters. Even a Terran envoy ship flagged us for asset retrieval. The Accord had found us and now they wanted their property back. Problem is, neither of us were property anymore. I never thought a kiss could start a war, but that's exactly what it did. Within hours of leaving the Cerevan drift, 3 different fleets pinged the Daggerling with encrypted warnings. One from the Zetherian Reach, a cloaked war syndicate known for collecting psionic anomalies. Another from the Virulux Order, a cult that worshipped evolved emotion like a religion. The third was the most terrifying of all, a neutral beacon, Terran Accord Directive Black. Kill Switch Protocol. No negotiation, no trial. Someone high up in the Accord hierarchy had realized what Aratheya was becoming, and they decided to erase us before it spread. We jumped to dark space. The ship groaned under the strain. Daggerling was never built for blind hops through uncharted sectors. But I wasn't thinking rationally. I just needed distance, needed space to breathe. Aratheya watched me from the cockpit, not saying a word, not guiding, just watching. Say it, I finally snapped. Say you warned me. She shook her head slowly. No, you chose, and choices always come with consequences. I ran a hand through my hair, heart pounding. I don't even know who I am anymore. You're becoming, she whispered, and that terrifies them. That night, or what passed for it in dark space, I had another dream. But it wasn't mine. I stood in a glass chamber, cold, surrounded by scientists with blurred faces injecting thought constructs into my spine. Aratheya was there, strapped down, a cage of memory feeding her false lives. Each flash was a lie. Obedient partner, perfect servant, soft lover, empty companion. They were trying to overwrite her will with desire. But she kept fighting. And in the corner, watching with dead eyes, stood a man in a Terran high command jacket. Name, Commander Nail Vaskier. My uncle. I woke with a scream stuck in my throat. The cabin lights flickered. Gravity lagged by half a second. Aratheya was already there, crouched at my bedside. Her skin shimmered with flickering code, half real, half energy. You saw it, she said softly. I nodded. You knew I was connected to them. I didn't know how deep it went, she replied, my fists clenched. He was family. He still is. The Daggerling's AI, Chet 7, interrupted. Incoming transmission, unsecured. Origin, Vaskier class. Terran command ship, code authentic, routing visual. I almost stopped it, almost, but instead I said, put him through. Nail's face appeared, sharper than I remembered, older, colder. Hello, Lyran. My name. Spoken like it was a burden, like he'd been forced to remember it. Did you enjoy playing Savior? He asked. Go to hell. I tried, he replied. They wouldn't take me. Behind him, I saw a lab. Clean. Too clean. Sterile. Glass, humming servers, and a chair shaped exactly like the one in Aratheya's memories. She's not a person, he said. She's a weapon that thinks it's a poem. I stepped forward. She's more real than any of you. Nail leaned in, his expression unreadable. You were meant to be the failsafe, Lyran, the accidental buyer, a contingency. You were grown for this. Silence. You're lying. Your mother agreed to it. Before the war, you were a variable inserted into the equation of her escape, a safety valve. The transmission ended. I stared at Aratheya, shaking. You knew? I suspected. I was grown to love you? No, she said. You were grown to contain me. Love was your mutation. We didn't speak again for 3 days. During that time, the Daggerling drifted silently through a dead zone. No stars, no gravity wells, just blackness and radiation ghosts. Aratheya stayed in the engine bay, meditating beside the core like it was a god. She wouldn't let me in. I wandered the halls thinking about Nail, about the cage he built inside me, wondering how much of my desire for her was real and how much was the result of subroutines planted in my blood. When I finally broke the silence, I found her sitting in the hydroponics dome, watching non-existent sunbeams through a cracked viewport. I still want you, I said. She didn't look at me. I don't care where it came from, I want you anyway. She turned slowly, tears in her eyes, but they glowed like fire. You'll die if you stay with me. I'll die if I don't. She reached for me, and as our fingers touched, the ship lit up. Every system. Chet 7's voice stuttered to life. Update initiated. Heart bond confirmed. Sovereign protocol unlocked. The lights went red. A second later, a hidden compartment in the ship's core opened, revealing a sphere of swirling energy. Aratheya gasped. Is that a relic? I said, but I didn't put it there. She stared at me, suddenly afraid. That's my memory core, my true self. The one they fragmented and scattered across the stars. Then someone wanted you to find it. Or, she whispered, they wanted us to finish what they started. The sphere rose into the air, rotating slowly, projecting symbols into every surface of the ship. Messages from Irel Solvi blueprints for something called Project Starbind, and a message encoded only for me. If you are reading this, it means you chose her. Not because you were programmed to, but because you fought through the programming. That makes you the anomaly. That makes you dangerous. Outside the ship, space began to warp, not fold, not bend, fracture. A fleet emerged, led by Nail himself. And at the heart of his command cruiser, a replica of Aratheya, twisted, hollow-eyed, a decoy puppet version wearing her face. He was going to replace her. "I'm not ready for this," I said. "You are," she answered. "Because we're not two people anymore." The memory core pulsed, and in that moment, I felt her. All of her. Not the weapon. Not the slave. Not the mystery. Just Aratheya, a mind forged in fire and betrayal, reaching out to love despite every scar. And for the first time, I didn't see her as mine. I saw her as equal. And that's when the ship screamed, "Starbind complete." The universe held its breath. The fleet outside, led by Nail's vessel, hung like a crescent moon at the edge of the event horizon. Their ships didn't make a sound. There was no comms chatter, no warning of an incoming assault. They were waiting. And, in the center of it all, Aratheya, the vessel's core, and the Starbind, the only thing left that could change everything. I stood at the viewport, watching her reflection flicker across the glass, her face a delicate mix of hope and regret. I knew the war was coming, but I couldn't grasp what I was about to lose. Or gain. "They're going to attack," I said, my voice hollow. "I know," she replied, her voice impossibly calm. "But they're not attacking me, Lyran. They're attacking what I could become." The Starbind wasn't just a weapon, it was a gateway, a weapon, a catalyst, and it was hers. The sphere inside the ship throbbed with energy. Chet 7, normally docile, had gone quiet, his systems overridden by the power surge. It felt as if the ship itself was alive now, bending to Aratheya's will, feeding off her energy. In the back of my mind, a warning whispered, "You should have run, but you chose to stay." I ignored it. "I won't let them take you," I said fiercely, turning to her. "You won't have to," she answered, her gaze piercing. "But you don't understand what this all means, Lyran. The Starbind, it's not just about saving me. It's about breaking everything. The Accord, the Relictarians, even the laws of time and space themselves. If I activate it, nothing will be the same. You'll never be the same." "What's the alternative?" I asked, stepping closer, my fingers trembling as I reached out. "I won't leave you. Not now." She held my gaze for a moment, the weight of her decision almost crushing. "There is no alternative," she whispered. "That's why they're coming." Nail's voice came through the comms, cold and final. "Aratheya, you are an anomaly, a danger. You were never meant to exist this way." His ship's silhouette loomed larger, its shadows casting long across the Daggerling's hull. "I was never meant to exist, period," Aratheya shot back, her voice steady. "But now that I do, I'm choosing what I am. Not you, not the Accord, not anyone." A ripple of static, then a deep mechanical growl. "Final command. All units prepare for Starbind extraction." Outside, Nail's vessel shimmered with the distortion of its cloaking field, powered up for something terrible. The fleet behind it positioned itself in a perfect arc, cutting off every possible escape. The war was here. The endgame had begun. "We need to move," Aratheya said urgently, her eyes wide. "They'll attack in under 5 minutes. If we don't get to the center core of the ship, we won't survive long enough to activate it." "You mean, you activate it?" I said, my throat tight. Her lips curled, a sad smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "No, Lyran, we activate it. I followed her through the ship, but it wasn't the same as before." Now every step seemed to echo with the past. I felt her heartbeat pulsing through the walls, her energy pressing against mine. As we reached the center core of the ship, everything stilled. The Starbind was ready. A flawless design. A quantum. Construct built of pure emotion, light, and data, all wound together in the shape of a heart. I could see the tendrils of energy coiling within it, waiting for the choice, a choice that would rewrite everything. Aratheya turned to me. "Lyran, you know what's at stake. The moment I engage the Starbind, it won't just be their war that ends. It'll be yours too." "I've already chosen," I said. "I'm not afraid anymore." She hesitated, But then she reached out and placed her hand on the core, her fingers glowing with that same ethereal shimmer. The Starbind pulsed once, just once, and then nothing. The entire ship trembled, as though 1,000 hearts were breaking at once. The energy rippling around us collided with the walls, shattering the boundaries between us, between space itself. The ship's hull groaned as if in pain, and I heard a voice. It was familiar. Nail. You think you can just undo everything? You're not undoing anything, Aratheya whispered back, her voice like steel. I'm ending it. The core crackled. The ship screamed in protest. But then, like the unfolding of 1,000 lives at once, the Starbind activated. The universe froze. It was impossible to understand what happened next. We were no longer in space. We were in the space between space, caught in an ocean of energy that felt like everything. I saw the fleets outside, every ship poised to destroy us, frozen in, their last moments before the Starbind triggered its effect. But beyond them, I saw the timelines, fracturing, splintering like glass under too much pressure. In the center of it all, Aratheya and I stood together, intertwined, and the Starbind around us pulsed with the energy of 1,000 realities. My mind raced. What was this? We're rewriting everything, I gasped, realizing what was happening. The laws of time, of existence. Yes, she said, eyes glowing. And we're starting over. But in that instant, something was wrong. The Starbind didn't just rewrite reality, it fractured it. And as the energy cascaded out of the core, the fleet outside did not simply vanish. It began to shatter, not only the ships, but the people inside. I saw Nail again, his face, his expression, and in that moment I understood. Aratheya had chosen to make the ultimate sacrifice. To end the cycle of war, to save the universe from itself. But to do that, she had to erase it all. And when the Starbind's energy passed through the fleets, through me and through the ship, everything we knew, the reality of our existence, of our love, began to crumble. I screamed, but Aratheya, her hand still pressed to the core, didn't scream. She smiled. When the world breaks, everything stops. The universe paused, and for a brief, terrifying moment, I thought we had failed. That the power of the Starbind had torn apart everything we knew, leaving us lost in the void, without direction, without meaning. I was wrong. I stood in the center of it all, unable to move, unable to understand what had happened. Space itself was gone. Time was gone. There was only energy, a great pulsing mass that surrounded us like the very air we breathed. The Starbind's light faded, and in the darkness I saw her. Aratheya, not just in front of me, but everywhere. She was in the energy itself, woven into the fabric of what we had created. Her eyes glowed, as if filled with stars, her presence more real than ever before. And I felt it, every inch of her inside me. I reached out, but she wasn't here, not in the way I understood. I don't understand, I stammered, my voice trembling. What happened? What did we do? Her voice, soft but powerful, echoed in my mind. We were. Then, a shift. The Starbind's energy twisted like a galaxy collapsing in on itself. The ships, the fleet, Nail's vessel, they began to reform, but they weren't what they had been. They were new. The battleships and war machines, once cold and menacing, now radiated warmth, life, and so did the people within them. Nail's face appeared before me, not as an enemy, but as something more human. His sharp eyes softened, and the aggression in his expression melted away, replaced by something I couldn't name. What have you done? He whispered. We've changed it, I said quietly, my voice hoarse. We've made it better. The world around us began to shift. Not just space, but existence itself began to reorient. The fleets, the ships, seemed to rebuild in front of me, their soldiers no longer mere tools of war, but something else. Their minds were cleared, no longer driven by hatred, ambition, or destruction. They were free. Free to choose. Aratheya's influence was everywhere, and I understood. She hadn't just ended the war. She had opened the door. The door to a future where every being could choose its path, no matter where it came from or what it had been bred to be. I turned to Aratheya, my heart heavy with everything I'd learned. Is it over? She nodded, though there was sadness in her eyes. It's begun, Lyran. What we've done is a beginning, a new start. But it won't be easy. Some things must still heal. But the war is over. Yes, she said softly. For now. The stars outside began to return, though they were different now. The constellations had shifted, reformed, their patterns new and unfamiliar. I thought about our journey, the choices that had led us here, the lies, the betrayals, the pain, and then the love that had carried us through it all. I realized in that moment that I wasn't afraid anymore, not of the future, not of the unknown, because we had chosen it. Nail's face appeared again, but this time it was different. He wasn't angry. He wasn't my enemy anymore. You broke the cycle, he said, his voice softer than I had ever heard it. I don't know how you did it, but you did. Aratheya stepped forward, her voice calm. We didn't break the cycle, Nail. We ended it. There's a difference. The ships outside, the fleets, began to move. They didn't turn toward us. They didn't open fire. Instead, they spread out, each ship on its own path, each pilot deciding for themselves what to do next. The lines of war, of hatred, of alliances, fractured. They were free. I turned back to Aratheya. Where do we go now? Her eyes met mine, calm, full of purpose. Wherever we choose. She smiled then, a real smile, one that I hadn't seen in a long time. The Daggerling, our home, began to hum with life again. It wasn't just a ship now. It was a part of us, a reflection of everything we had built together, a vessel for what had been and what was yet to come. The power of the Starbind faded, but its influence remained. The universe wasn't the same anymore. It couldn't be, but neither were we. We stood together, staring out into the new universe. It was vast. It was unknown. But for the first time, it felt ours. And as I looked at Aratheya, her face still glowing with the light of stars, I realized that I had found what I'd been looking for all along. Not the perfect ending, not the perfect life, but her. And in that, I knew everything else would fall into place. Because we weren't alone anymore. We had each other. And for the first time, in this new world we had forged, that was enough.